Now, earlier this year, there were petitions filed before the High Court requesting the High Court to recognize same-sex marriage in India. We had one conversation with one of those couples. Today, I'm very happy to bring to you the other couple in that petition. Well, it's taken us a couple of months to line this up because Vaibhav Jain and Parag Mehta are very busy men, but thankfully we finally managed to get some time with them. Gentlemen, good evening and thank you for joining us. You're both in New York, is that correct?
That's correct. Good evening. We are actually in Temple, Texas at the moment, but we live in New York. Right at the beginning of actually midway through the pandemic phase, we decided to just sit in Texas at Parag's parents' house. So we've been spending about 3 months with them, just riding on the pandemic.
So Vaibhav has come to his sasural, is what he's trying to say. In Gujarati, we call this a gar jamai.
All right, so just to give our audience an understanding, the two of you are married in the US and you approached the Indian consulate to basically register the same marriage in India as well, so that it's legal and recognized in India as well. This is normally how it works for our audience. For for Indian citizens who live overseas, who marry under, under the laws of the other country, can register it at the Indian consulate and then it becomes officially recognized in India, except for the fact that India doesn't recognize same-sex marriages. And you were sent away, I understand, from the Indian consulate. Tell us what happened.
So this was on March the 3rd. Parag and I got married last year, in a Jain ceremony, and it was almost a year now. So we decided to get our marriage registered, and that's because I'm still an Indian citizen. My parents live in Delhi, and if there's any inheritance, anything at all, in India, and the fact that we travel to India all the time, and if anything were to happen to me, Parag would have no legal rights to me. So I think the obvious decision was to go and just get our marriage registered. So there were two options that the consulate was giving us. One was registration of marriage. So you could actually go in there, a consular officer by the power vested by the president could actually solemnize a wedding. And the second was certificate of marriage, meaning you produce the certificate from the US government saying, yes, you're married, and then they'll recognize it and give you a certificate from Indian government.
But in our case, when we asked them for it, not only did they deny us, they refused to put the denial in writing. We said, okay, if you're going to deny us, at least give us some written proof of it. Yeah. But they kept hemming and hawing. And what became very clear is they didn't have instructions on this. Yeah. Nobody had instructed the consular officials what to do if a same-sex couple came and made this request. And so we kind of felt for them because it wasn't their fault. They're under the laws that govern their work. And so in the end, we spoke to the senior consular officer. And I finally just asked him straight out. I said, are you denying us because we are a same-sex couple? And after a pause, he looked at us and said, yes.
Yeah. I know you mentioned it a little bit about why this is important to do, because a lot of people will argue, hey, you guys live in the US, you're already married as far as the US is concerned. Why bother with this? Would you explain to us why this is important for you?
Sure. So, when we got married, the boon from that basically was the outpouring of love that we received from so many hundreds of men and women from around the country. So I'll tell you this, the day we got married, I think after that, within a month, I received about 1,000 Facebook friends requests, hundreds of people following me, messages basically saying, Vaibhav, I'm so proud of you. Congratulations. It's so nice to see an Indian man, getting married to the love of their life, and how wonderful this is. And we are so lucky to see you do this, but I don't know if it'll ever be a reality for me. And that actually dawned on me at that time saying, that this is really a problem. Like, why am I still not treated equally in the eyes of the law back home in India? So, we actually didn't think much of it. We're like, we should just go through the normal process and see, if we can just get our marriage registered. Maybe that's a ray of hope.
But there's some practical considerations as well, right? In this time of COVID, we can't travel to India. He can because he has immediate family there. But because I have no legal recognition, I have no legal standing, I can't come as a spouse. If I were a woman and married to him, there would be no question that a wife could travel with her husband to visit her in-laws. But because our marriage is not recognized, because I'm a man, I don't have that right. That is pure and simple sex discrimination, and the Indian Constitution prohibits it.
Yeah, and then during Diwali, Dussehra, these are festivals I actually go home. And because of COVID right now, I can go, but Parag cannot. So it's actually not fair to me, right?
and I understand all of that. I've read through your petition, the fact that you have appealed, saying that constitutionally, you shouldn't be discriminated against because of your gender, which is what this is. But I'm sure your lawyers have explained to you that this is going to be a long haul. It's going to be a very long fight, because obviously it's not something that's going to happen overnight. So did you take all of that into consideration when you decided? So it's one thing to say, hey, this is unfair. It's something else altogether to say, let's do something about it, and let's, sort of invest time, energy over many, many years to make this happen. What did you think about it? What were the considerations when you made that decision?
I think a lot of the considerations were on Vaibhav's part, right? His family still lives in India. It's a very daunting thing to sue one's own country. And actually, when we got the petition for the first time and he saw Vaibhav Jain versus the Union of India, his heart sank for a moment. He's like, am I sure I'm doing the right thing? But in the end, back to those messages that Vaibhav talked about, what it told us is that inequality is robbing millions of people across India of basic fundamental rights. And somebody has to stand up for it. We have been in the US, we've been able to see the process that happened here. You're right, it takes time, but in the grand scheme of things, the 20-year journey from the start of discussion about marriage equality to the Supreme Court's passage of it here is actually a very small blip in history, and it changed the lives of millions of people. And so the opportunity to help do that in India is one that we felt we had to take up, because if not us, then who? And if not now, then when?
And Parag and I were talking about this, right when we were doing this. And I asked Parag, imagine if that person who actually filed the petition here in the US wouldn't have done it. We would never have been able to get married. So it's I think more of it, it's like paying it forward is how I see it. But definitely doing it for my country, for my people, because there are so many. I've lived in Delhi, and I've seen how how difficult it is for gay men and lesbian women and transgender people to to live in India. It can be very discriminatory. So it was a personal thing for me.
And I'm going to come to that, but who knows? Vaibhav Jain versus Union of India could be the the Roe v. Wade that we read about 40 years from now. So.
Let's hope, unlike Roe v. Wade, we're not still arguing about it 40 years later. Because the truth about marriage equality is, everybody who argued against it 8 years ago in the US, they're not speaking about it anymore. It's become sort of an accepted norm. Yeah. Even among conservative Christian groups in the United States, I think Catholics say 97% of Catholics now support it. The sky didn't fall. Yeah. The world didn't end. Straight marriages weren't threatened. So there's a lot of discussion and chatter before the thing happens, but once the thing happens, it'll just normalize everything. Yeah.
Yes, fingers crossed that will happen. but I do want to talk about some of the details that you have included very bravely in your petition, because it's now a public document that one can download over the internet. And you've included a lot of very personal details. Vaibhav, you talked about growing up in India and what that was like, and the fact that you had technically no gay role models. There was no one you looked, around you in your social circle or otherwise, who had a fulfilling life as a normal tax-paying gay citizen of India, and what that meant for you and what it was like. You've talked about being bullied in school. Could you tell us what it was like growing up in India for you?
Well, yeah, it was hard. I wouldn't lie, and I never really enjoyed school because it was just bullying, constant bullying, and I just didn't know. And like you mentioned, there were no role models. It's funny, I didn't even know the word gay. It was fun. It started when I was maybe 11 or 12 years old, when, my friends are, infatuated by girls. And I'm like looking at them and I'm like, I'm infatuated by you guys. You guys are so beautiful. Why? It was so confusing, these feelings around boys. And I had no idea at all. I didn't even understand what the word gay meant. I think somewhere in some conversation, a friend mentioned, I was in a Catholic school. So I looked through my, school's library, couldn't find a single book that described it. And then I finally found one old Oxford dictionary, and it said the word gay. And the first meaning was happy, and the second meaning was homosexual. So I was young, so I didn't know what to make of it, but I knew enough that I shouldn't talk about it. Because if it's not out in the open, if there's no literature available, nothing at all, I think I can absolutely know for sure that this is something that's not correct. Bullying continued. I was called names, and one instance in particular that always comes to mind and has very painful memories is every time. So how in India we have class monitors day. So every year there would be a male and a female class monitor that we chosen at the beginning of the school year. So class teacher would come in, ask for like, give me names and, who should it be? So when the boys' turn of nomination would come, nobody would take my name. But whenever a girl's name would come, everybody would scream my name. And, a year was fine. This went on year after year after year. First day of school, I would shiver and I just didn't have the courage to go inside the classroom. And the moment that entire process would start, I would just put my head on the desk and start praying that please make this stop, please make this stop. So it was very, very hard. And it's not just students, even teachers, started to laugh because they didn't know any better, and I suffered so much. But, I persevered. I knew that this is not what defines me. I have to do, I have to make them understand that I'm different. And I did. I became a successful, dentist. I came here, did a master's in public health. And now the same friends have reached out to me. Some of them have actually apologized to me, saying I didn't know any better. And actually, when I came out to my family, I told Parag that, I really want to do this. I want to send an email to all of my close family, friends, teachers who I'm still in touch with, who I think at least are my friends. And I sent an email to about 200 people. So many of them just responded saying, I am sorry. I should have known better. We were all kids and what I did to you was not fair. And I apologize for that. So, it does get better eventually.
What was it like, Vaibhav, to move to the US and especially New York, if that's the city that you live in, which is perhaps the most open-minded or most cosmopolitan, progressive part of, liberal part actually is the right word, of the US. What was it like to move suddenly to such an open society where, you don't have to, nobody would even raise an eyebrow? Yeah. What was that change like for you?
Yeah, so I actually moved to Washington, D.C. first. So we later on moved to New York in 2017. But moving here was a revelation for me. I could not believe my eyes. It was actually the very first Pride Parade is where I actually met Parag. But I was going to that Pride Parade with so much of excitement. The fact that, people are celebrating, their sexuality here. People are so open about it. I had promised myself, I was living like a dual life in India. Like when I was in Delhi, I would tell my friends, yeah, my girlfriend is down south. I went to school in Bangalore. So I'm like, yeah, my girlfriend's in Bangalore. And when I used to go to Bangalore, I used to tell them, yeah, my girlfriend's in Delhi. So when
I used to say my girlfriend's in Canada.
So I promised myself when I come to the US, I'm going to be honest to myself, honest to everybody else I talk to. I'm talking to my friends, hey, I'm gay. Oh, so what? Like, big difference. Like, I'm like, why are they not giving the kind of visceral reactions everybody else is supposed to give? Nobody can because they loved me for who I was. And then going to Pride parades, seeing openly how presidents, vice presidents, Congress, everybody being so supportive of who you are, your identity in itself was just so wonderful to see.
Parag, also in the petition, you've talked about, you've included details of your life and you grew up in the US, your parents are both doctors, but that didn't mean it was easy sailing, was it?
No, I think in some ways, the conservatism of India that my parents left stayed with them and defined our household. I think when I was growing up, our version of India was the 1972 version that my parents left from. And so it never progressed. And meanwhile, my cousins and Vaibhav and his family in India, their world had changed over the next 20, 30 years, and we hadn't kept up with it. So I remember when I first spoke with Vaibhav's parents, they said, this stuff can happen in America, but it won't work in India. And I said, what are you talking about? My family is much more conservative than yours. You guys are much more progressive than we are. And so I think sometimes there's a misperception that everything in America is liberalized and Western. The reality is for that immigrant generation of my parents, they sort of very much stuck in the conservative ways of the India that they left.
Yeah.
What was it like to come out to your folks? You did it on your graduation day?
I did it a couple months before graduation. It was there was an honors day, which is the day when we recognize the top scoring performers at the college. And I was asked to be the keynote speaker. And I had been thinking about telling my parents for some time, but I wanted to wait until after graduation so I could become financially independent because I didn't know how they would react. And I was worried that they might cut me off. They might, kick me out of the house. And so I at least wanted to be able to stand on my own 2 feet. But a few months before graduation, I had come out to a small group of friends. And there were some Indian kids in that group whose parents knew my parents. And I thought there's a possibility that they could go home and tell their folks, and then my parents might find out that way. And I didn't want that to happen. No matter what happened, I wanted my parents to hear it from me. So on that honors day, when they came to visit, and I knew they were super proud of me, after it was over, I took them to lunch, and then we went back to my apartment. And it was very difficult. And I finally summoned up the courage. And I said, Mom, Dad, I hope you don't hate me, but I'm gay. And my dad immediately got up from where he was sitting. He came next to me, he put his arm around me, and he said, Beta, we could never hate you. You are our hero, and you are our hira, and we will always love you. And I think about that a lot because there are many great gifts my father has given me in my life, including life itself. But that split-second decision that he made to make sure that not even for one moment did I wonder if I was fully loved. He made sure that I always knew that.
And your dad gave a toast at the wedding that went viral?
I did. Yeah, I like to say my dad stole the show at our wedding, which, you know, leave it to my father to upstage 2 gay men at their well-planned wedding. He gave a beautiful speech, and it's on YouTube for anyone who wants to watch it. We didn't actually know, by the way, that it was going to go viral. Vaibhav actually just posted it because several of our friends had asked for a copy of it. And since my dad didn't keep the written version, we just posted the video thinking that our friends would watch it.
And also you have to remember this, Parag and I obviously know the story. His dad has obviously spoken about that story. So when we were hearing, a lot of it came, like, it was knowledge to us. So we were, we were excited as we were hearing the story, but we were like, yeah, I mean, everybody knows the story. I think it should, this is like just a general occurrence happening.
Yeah, I think he went beyond it. We didn't know what he was going to say, first of all. I'd asked him a few times beforehand. I was nervous what he was going to say. And he said, don't worry, I got it. So when he got up there, if you look at my face in the video, I look like I'm in shock because he's sharing a lot of personal details. But afterwards, a friend of mine came up to me and she said, that speech wasn't for you. That speech was for all the uncles and aunties in the room because he was speaking to his peer set and he was trying to walk them through his journey from homophobia to love and acceptance. And he was giving them permission to be good. And when I thought of it in that context, I realized it was important for him to share those very painful and personal details of my coming out, because that was the only way to help move that audience to be more accepting in their own lives. And in the end, that was the impact of his video. I think over 30 million people have now seen that speech, and we get the most amazing messages from people of all cultures. I remember a woman in Nicaragua emailed us and said, lesbians in Nicaragua have translated your dad's speech into Spanish, and they are playing it for their parents as a way to start the conversation of coming out. And that's incredible.
Friends within our own circle that we did not know were gay actually used that video to come out to their parents. Desi friends saying, here's a Desi father. This is how it's supposed to be.
All right, we'll do the next interview with your dad.
He's way more interesting, by the way.
So for our audience, there's a link to this video in the description of the video that you're currently watching. So if you wanna catch that video, you can do that as well. Parag, but you've also talked about depression and you're facing mental health issues as well. This is something that's being written about now in India. Not enough, though some, that there are higher instances of anxiety, of depression, of self-harm within the LGBTQI community in India because of lack of acceptance, because they can't live their truth. But are you comfortable talking about what you went through?
Yeah, I mean, sure. I think we have to remember, as I said earlier, that inequality robs people of things. It robs people of opportunities, but it also robs them of peace of mind. And when you have to spend 10, 15, 20 years of your life living a lie, pretending to have a girlfriend, pretending to be the perfect son, because you don't want to disappoint everybody in your life, it takes a toll on you. And particularly in your teenage years, when your brain is still in formation and you don't know how to manage those feelings, it can create a lot of confusion. And so in my case, I was a very optimistic and happy kid. I don't look back and think of myself as a depressed person, but I have to be honest that there were 3 moments where I attempted suicide in my teenage years. And the reason why I attempted suicide is because I thought my life is never going to get better than this. It's only downhill from here, because I don't want what society has prescribed for me. I don't want to get married. I don't want to have a traditional family. And so my only other option is to exit, just get out of the situation altogether. I don't want to disappoint everybody. And I think if we consider that, if we consider the pressure that we're putting on children, these are children, going through puberty, going through their teenage years and full of hormones and confusion. And in that moment, we're asking young gay and lesbian, bisexual and transgender people to deal with something that's so difficult with zero support, zero role models, zero support structure. it's unfair. It's really unfair. And so part of the reason why we're doing this so publicly is to let all those kids out there who are going through the same thing know that you can survive this. You can come out of this and the world will be good and your life will be happy.
In fact, I remember when we've done conversations like this in the past, the main problem that parents would get in touch with, and we had conversations with, with the Swikar team, which is parents of LGBTQI people. They talked about how their children came out to them. And their biggest concern was they were worried that my child is never going to have a full life. You'll never have the full joy of, being a fully adjusted member of society. You'll always be shunned. You'll always face issues. Vaibhav, is that how your parents reacted when you came out to them?
Yes. So I think, first of all, I give a lot of credit to Parag because, he had done this. So I had a template of how to do it. He did tell me that Vaibhav, no, you don't have to tell it to anybody, but you owe it to your parents at least, because my parents are extremely loving individuals. I've gone through so much in my life, in terms of bullying and trauma, but they have always shown me immense amount of love and, always helped me through so much in my life. So when I decided to come out to them, and I told them, they were actually very, very shocked, a very similar reaction and, Parag's parents. But my mother said a very interesting thing that time. There were conversations around log kya kahenge, society and all that. But my mother mentioned that time that, beta, I think I failed as a parent. And my heart sank and I'm like, are you saying this because I came out as gay? He's like, no, beta, because you took 25 years to tell me this, such an important truth of your life. You have spent so many years struggling with this and worrying about it. I'm the parent. I'm supposed to be worrying. You're supposed to be happy. I'm supposed to take care of you. And for you to be taking this long, I feel as a parent. So, it was definitely, difficult for them. And, they expressed their love, but they knew because they felt like, log kya kahenge? And how connotations can become like, oh, it must have come from her side of the house or his side of the house. There were very serious conversations where my parents were like, you will never talk about this to anybody. We love you. We met Parag. We love him. What else do you have to talk about? Just be happy in your own world. And our world is very small. Vaibhav, you are not living here right now. Beta, please don't talk about it to anybody.
I think that's the mentality for a lot of Indian households. It's fine, we love you, but just keep your mouth shut. Yeah. But if we all keep our mouth shut about it, then everybody is going to grow up believing that they're all alone and nothing gets better for anybody. So it's really important that we not keep our mouth shut, that we talk about this and we talk about it in a loving and open way.
And I told them, I said, mom and dad, I want you to be accepting of me, accepting of Parag, but also I want the entire society, our friends and family to be accepting of me. I will give you time, but I won't give you indefinite time. So take your time. If you have to grieve, I understand. And, Parag put it very beautifully for me. He said, you have to remember, Vaibhav, they have been making dreams for your wedding and your life for 25 years. In a matter of a statement, in a matter of a second, you've shattered those dreams. So give them time to make new dreams. Don't expect them to be okay within a matter of a second or a minute, even a year. It takes time. And, once they have those dreams, they will actually incorporate me in your dream and you in your dream. And, it'll get better after that. But we have to be patient.
But they did, there was a photograph of your parents all decked up at your wedding, which is really sweet to have transitioned from, don't tell anyone I'm going to dance at your wedding.
Yeah.
5 years, it just, they transformed. And when I told them I want to get married here, they were like, absolutely fine. Again, they weren't very comfortable about how things would be in India. So they said, beta, let's, do all of this in India. We'll tell everybody, we'll invite everybody. But the moment our wedding had, finished and they saw the outpouring of love, even in the Indian media, Navbharat Times wrote a beautiful piece in Hindi and, and they were just so touched about it. They were like, beta, when you come back, we want to host a reception for you. So last November, when we were in Delhi, my parents threw a reception at the Lalit for the two of us. And this is a picture from there. I had, for closest to my 100 family and friends, my school teachers, my school friends, so many close people came and celebrated with me. So, and I remember standing on that stage, Faye, and just looking around and have tears in my eyes. And I'm like, I never imagined this could happen. It was amazing.
That's beautiful. Of course, now don't tell anybody also goes completely out of the window when you are going up against the Union of India, right? So this is now, so you've gone past that sort of immediate extended family social circle. Now you're in the news. Is there a concern that you might get targeted, your parents might get targeted, there might be some trolling? Is that something you guys discussed and figured out how you're going to deal with it?
Yes, absolutely. So we got a taste of it when we got married, because as much as the American media covered us, Indian media was extremely kind, like I mentioned, and they did a lot. But one thing that Parag had told me, and everybody, all my friends did, when there is a public article, never read the comments. Because if you go and read those comments, oh my God, Faye, like I would say 95% are positive, but the 5% are vicious, they're vile. But you know what was interesting as I read through these comments, and I couldn't help myself. I'm like, I want to know what are people talking about, how is this being perceived? Interestingly, we don't have to fight our battles anymore. The 5% who were being vicious and vile, the 95% were responding to them. And a lot of them, there was a lot of back and forth, but a lot of them are very respectful. Like, give it time. And, if you're interested, read this article, talk to people. This is how you learn. So there was definitely, this worry. My parents were like, you're going against your own country's government. So are you sure you want to do this? And, when I explained to them what it meant to me and to Parag, they understood.
But let's also be clear about what we're going up against. Yeah. We're not going up against the people of India.
Yeah.
We're not even really going up against the government of India. We are going up against a 200-year-old colonial era mentality that defines marriage in a very narrow Judeo-Christian sense. Yeah. This is not who India is. You go back centuries in India, marriage and love were celebrated in all of its many forms. Gender was considered to be fluid. We were actually a very progressive culture. And this change in India happened because of one round of invasion after another. So when Vaibhav talks about the 95% defending us in the comments thread, I often look to see who was doing the defending. It is the young people of India, particularly young girls, teenage girls, were coming to our defense time and time again. So to me, that's a signal that India has changed already. Yes. The youth are changing it. It's just a matter of time for the laws and the government to catch up. And all we're doing is we're vehicles to help that happen.
And if you also look in the petition, I think in our first hearing, the judge and even the Union of India's lawyers were very clear. They realized that this is nothing. It wasn't an animosity against each other. It was not anything that we're challenging them or saying anything horrible about them. The judges made it very clear that this is about giving equal access and equality to everybody. So you're not just talking about an individual, you're talking about the citizens of India, every citizen of India. So there's nothing, and nobody's coming to fight with you.
It's not antagonistic.
Antagonistic, exactly. That's the word.
Yeah. And also, it's very important to also remind people that this is not an attempt in any way to change religious customs or the religious marriage, the Hindu Marriage Act or the Muslim Marriage Act or the Christian Marriage Act. This is to legally just recognize same-sex marriage in the Foreign Marriage Act and the Special Marriage Act, which doesn't affect any of the traditions and customs, right? So that's a very clear route that you're taking, that this is not adversarial to any sort of religious customs.
Yes. And Article 21 clearly states that every Indian citizen has the right to marry whoever they choose to marry. So we're just following the Constitution.
That's charming. Guys, I wish you very, very good luck. It's obviously going to be a long road, but you have so many young people in your corner right now rooting for you. And while I leave you, I guess we're just hoping that as India progresses, that dictionary, the Oxford Dictionary description becomes more real, which is that if you're gay, you're first happy and you're homosexual. So hopefully that will become true. And good luck, congratulations. And I hope we speak soon and we track this very closely.
Thank you,
Faye. Thanks for your time.
Thank you for your time.